the last like mile of like a 40-mile ruck that they had to do for selection, he took a spill and his kneecap spun completely around and was on the opposite side of his leg. And he actually said he had a similar reaction. They were like, yo, what happened to your knee? And he looked at it and he said the next thing he knew, he woke up. Like he passed out from
Wow.
just like registering of like, oh my God, you know, what just happened to me?
Welcome back to the Iron Road podcast. Ian and Eric back at it again. We're going to have an awesome show for you today. A lot of great topics. I have a quick story experience from Publix in Florida that I want to share with Eric, and I'll allow you guys to ride along here. But Eric, I saw this lady and I was walking into like, you know, in supermarkets, the first doors you pass, there's like the shopping cart room. She might have been a meth head. I really couldn't tell. She had all the characteristics.
For the audience, you do live in Florida. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
It's like the meth capital of the world.
Yeah.
So she might have been a tweaker. She had all the characteristics of a tweaker. She was pacing around on the phone, and I only heard one line of her conversation, and it was fucking classic. She's like, yeah, your medication ran out. Fuck you, bitch. All right, I'll talk to you. And then she hangs up on her. Like, it was like one of the most dark, aggressive opening lines or, you know, lines that I heard. And then like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, dude, the relationships that are out there, Eric, I can't fathom. I think we have a pretty aggressive, abusive relationship, you and I, but we might only scratch the surface on what actually goes on, especially in the tweaker world. Dude. I really can't. What are your thoughts on that? On the psychoanalysis? I kind of want to hear your opinions.
A dear friend of mine, a guy that I would consider to be a mentor, he said to me one time, he's like, you cannot possibly fathom the degree to which you are siloed. And what he meant is like, we will always select for people around us who have similar IQ, you know, similar social standing, similar interests, and so on, meaning that your sample size of the world on a daily basis, unless you're like a police officer or like an ER doctor or something, you know what I mean, is really small. Even though you may know, you may scroll through your phone and maybe you're a successful guy and you've got 1,000 names in there. Odds are, they're all still kind of similar. They're all still kind of intelligent. They might have a high social IQ. When you go out of your circle and you go into like the rest of the world, as our friend Jeremy once told us, rock bottom is a trap door, my friend. There is a degree of freak show on this earth, on this planet, in this country, that has to be seen to be believed. And, you know, you and I both came from good families that had our challenges. Like I know our parents both had their challenges, and that's fine. Okay. But similar backgrounds, we've developed a common sense of morality that I think is, I'm proud of. You know, I'm proud of what you and I have accomplished. Being able to get married and have children is not as easy as it used to be. Used to be a slam dunk that you got married and had kids and fell ass first into a career. Now, like, if you want a wife and you want kids, you got to go get it. You got to figure it out. There's no system in place to deliver you a good-looking woman from a similar socioeconomic background. It's like you got to hunt for it. It's something that our parents never had to deal with. So with that said, I'm proud of all of those things, okay? But again, when you step outside that realm and you go into the rest of the world, it could be really fucking dark, man.
Scary.
Yeah, dude, I spent a long time. By a long time, I mean like maybe a year, which is a long time for this situation, working at a GNC in Hempstead, New York. I was 18-year-old white kid. At the time, I probably weighed 175 pounds at my height of 6'1", 6'2". And I was real naive. I thought like we all were just going to sing Kumbaya and hold hands and everything was going to be okay. Dude, the shit that I saw working in that store, a vitamin store, no less, okay, was out of control. And it was enough for me to change my worldview within 6 months. Like I remember going out to throw the trash in the dumpster, and this gentleman was having intimate relations with a sex worker just behind the dumpster in the open. And so like I just threw the garbage bag in the dumpster and just kept walking. And there was a plus-size women's clothing store that was right next to the GNC. Kind of a hilarious kind of mock-up. And the woman that managed the store was this awesome, genuinely hilarious, very funny, large black woman. That was kind of like the positive stereotype of a large black woman that you would see on any show. So I walk by and I'm like, I'm a young guy, I still have good instincts, and I'm like, hey, listen, I wouldn't go over there. There's a crackhead, basically with a hooker. Like, let's just not go over there. She's like,
Call it what it is.
she's like, what the hell? Are you kidding me, son? Are you kidding me, white boy? And she like goes out and she sees it going on and she's just like screaming at him. She's like, you gotta get that crack hoe out of here. You make me sick. You make me sick. And I'm like, you don't gotta do that. So she calls 911 and the cops are in the area. Okay. Hempstead has its own police force. So it's not like it's coming from across a major grid. The dude threw the sex worker in the dumpster to hide her. And
Just
like,
threw her in
and
there.
just threw her in there. He's like, yo, keep it down. Keep it down. He's like elbowing the side of the dumpster. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like there was a dude that would beg for money outside the local bank. Like, yo, man, I'm starving. I don't know how I'm going to make it this week. He always had a weightlifting belt and he had like 20-inch arms. It's like, you are not starving, sir.
Yeah.
Like, this is just like, get a better line.
I need
like,
carbs for a pump, man.
yeah, like it's like, get a better line.
Yeah.
And like, there was a couple of like Latino guys that would shop in there, and they immediately knew I did not belong in this neighborhood, and they kind of like took me under their wing and like protected me, because you would work alone in the store, 8 hours alone, 10 hours alone, and like if like a tweaker came in and like and these Latino guys, they were jacked. They all trained at that gym in Westbury, Sparta. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So this
Great
is like
gym.
this is where these guys got down. This is where their crew was, and like they would refuse to leave the store as long as there was like tweakers around. They'd be like, Poppy, we ain't leaving you, Poppy. And it was all because I gave them like very rudimentary advice on how to use steroids. So I basically built like a local following, probably in the Latin Kings, because I was helping them like cycle drugs properly at age 18, because they had no idea what they were doing, and their health was getting better, and like their joint pain was clearing up, and they just like loved me. Like, and actually, I never told you this. I later went on to lift with those guys at Sparta. Like my bench
hell
crew
yeah.
was like me and 3 5'8", 245-pound Latino guys. And
Yeah.
they did not understand like periodization or programming. Like every time you said, all right, I'm going for 5, they would make you do 3 forced reps. That's just how they got down. Like if you're trying to bench
I
for
know. It's
5,
the old school
they're not taking the
brutality.
bar off you. They're like, I got you 3 more, Poppy. I got you 3 more. And to them, that was like everything. Like they were like, they that was like their sign of like, I love you. And I think one of the last times that I was there was a dude. He would come in, Ian, I'm not lying, he would park in the fire lane right in front of the store. Had to be 6'4", 6'5", very tall, skinny black dude. Really nice guy, okay? Big afro, and he drove an H3 or an H2, one of the Hummers, okay? And he would just leave it with the keys in the ignition and the door open, and no one would ever steal it, which immediately told me this is not a guy to be messed with, okay? And he bought at least 3 like these 3 of these drinks a week that are basically designed to mask THC in your urine. So like he bought them like several times a week. I just started giving him discounts, and I was like, I
Like a
think this
Q
is a guy to
Carbo,
know.
like one of those.
Yes, that exact one. Yes, okay.
All right.
And like I just started giving him discounts. I was like, this is a guy I think I want to know if I'm stuck working in this neighborhood. You know? And the last day that I ever saw him, he came in and he was like, hey, wow. They would always call me like white boy. He's like, hey, white boy, listen, you got a piece of paper back there? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I take a piece of receipt tape, I give it to him. He's like, oh, do you have a pen? I'm like, yeah, sure. This is before smartphones. This is like flip phones, Nokias,
Nextel.
Blackberries don't even exist really at this point. And Nextel, of course. And he writes a number down on the paper, and he writes like a name. I forget what the name was. I probably deliberately did not want to commit it to memory. And I'm like, what's this? He goes, listen, dude, I come in here, I got to buy these drinks because of the conditions of my parole. He was like, I just got out. You saved me a lot of money. I really, really appreciate it. So he's like, if anybody ever messes with you or messes with this store, he's like, you call this number and they're dead. I will kill them. And I was like, just
Okay.
terrified. But
Thank
to
you.
him, it was like the most sincere exchange of pleasantry. Like it was like him giving me a hug. It was like this was this guy dealt in violence. That was his
It was his
currency.
version. It was
Yeah,
his version of
yeah.
a hug.
And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm glad. And I attribute the fact that I never got robbed in that store to him and those Latinos. I felt like it was out there, like, don't rob the GNC. Like they're because I used to look out the window, Ian. There was across the shopping center, there was a Chuck E. Cheese and a bank. I watched that bank get robbed at least 3 times. Like guys come out with guns. It was just like
Sipping muscle milk, watching the bank get robbed.
yeah, literally. I'd be on the phone with my boy. I'm like, oh, the bank's getting robbed again. That's that simple. So I attribute not getting robbed or killed literally to instinctively knowing which guys to be nice to and just like giving them discounts. And I feel like there's like a local like this. If you greenlight GNC, there's going to be like a blood war, basically. Like there's like this is
A
that
full-on
yeah,
turf war.
yeah.
Dude,
But dude, point is, people that were freaks. I saw freaks over there. I saw things that I never would have known existed, and that's the type of stuff that makes you like appreciate civilization. Like you go home and you're like, oh God, thank you, mom and dad. Like that's literally what happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, your dumpster crack whore story definitely topped my my tweaker just shit talking some random person who could be a loved one or a family member.
That's the great part about that. We have no idea.
It just leaves so much to your imagination. But that when you said those Spanish guys did a lot of force reps with you, dude, I worked at a gym for 12 years and it was like mostly older people. It was kind of a wellness center. And this like guy who's in his like early 70s, always like the peacock walk and kind of like strutting around, always slamming weights for no apparent reason. And he would ask me for a spot on the Smith machine and he would go, all right, 3 me, 5 you, without any other explanation or instructions. And what he actually meant was, the translation was, he's going to probably get 3 reps and then I'm going to have to pick up 5 reps off of him, like forced reps. 2 me, 6 you. 5. That's how his instructions were on how many reps he can actually accomplish by himself versus how many you're going to have to blow your back out trying to get off of his chest. And then after that, he would get up and walk around and snarl and, oh, dude. And he was always in khakis and a really tightly tucked in like polo. Just the most bizarre individual. I used to, shouldn't say this on the air, but I used to videotape the weird people in the gym doing their craziest shit. Like the Gravitron, some guy would put so much weight on it that he would pull himself up and then just take his hands off the thing and float for a little bit and then catch himself. Like just wild shit in the gyms. Wild shit. Dude. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, dude. People are freaks, man. And on the topic of freakish spectacles, I was telling you before we went live, it was like, obviously, I think we discussed this on the last podcast. So, for obvious reasons, I've been on a massive Sylvester Stallone kick for the past 9 days, right? And
why not?
I put on Over the Top the other day. And for the audience, this is how I get ready for this podcast. Like, I have to be in a good mood. So, like, I don't have to watch the full movie, but if I know we're going to record, I have to put on, like, a movie that puts me in a good mood so that I can then communicate that good mood to you. And for the record, I own 2 copies of Over the Top on DVD.
Just in case?
Just in case, okay? You never know what can happen to one. At least we have 2, all right?
You got a travel copy and a home copy.
One that goes in the travel DVD, binder, And so I'm watching this movie, and in many respects, it is worse than I remembered. It's the whole movie just makes no sense. Like, Lincoln Hawk, which is Stallone's character's name, is in some scenes called Lincoln Hawk, and in others he's called Lincoln Hawks. And I'm wondering if they, in the middle of the movie, were like, Lincoln Hawk sounds better than Lincoln Hawks. And so they just decided to just change the name, but then like they didn't go back and edit it out. So it's very strange in that regard. Here's a guy that left his kid, okay, picks the kid up from, like, the plot is this arm wrestling truck driver. He picks up his estranged son from his military school graduation. And the kid looks like what? Like maybe middle school? We're saying he's 12 or 13, right? So might be a military school middle school graduation. And his sick mother decides that they're going to bond by Stallone's character, Lincoln Hawk, driving this kid back to wherever he's from in his big rig. Okay. And the whole he left the family. Lincoln Hawk left the family. And they never really tell you why. They allude to the fact that he didn't get along well with the father-in-law. You know, I got a couple kids, and everyone's got in-law problems occasionally. And you just gonna ditch your kid and wife because you don't like your father-in-law? What the hell are we talking about here? This is ridiculous. This makes no sense. Okay. And when I was younger, I used to hate the kid in the movie, but now I realize it actually was a great acting job. The
Okay.
kid is like crying on command. Like, he's obviously meant to be a douchebag, like a rich douchebag kid, and it works. It crushes. Point is, the movie is pretty lame until it gets to the arm wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they filmed a real arm wrestling tournament for this. Like, most of those guys, with the exception of Stallone and the guy that plays Bull Hurley, I believe, were all actual arm wrestlers. Okay. So once the theme song comes on, Winner Takes It All, which was, I think, written by the singer, originally performed by the singer from the band Asia. And then they were like, you know what? You don't have enough intensity. They replaced him with Sammy Hagar. So Sammy Hagar singing their song in the movie. And, you know, the montage starts and they're showing everyone getting amped up and the arm wrestlers are out of their minds. And Bull Hurley's got to be at least 250 pounds in that movie. Like, and I don't know how tall he is. The shaved head, huge guy, not lean. And he, like, they're showing all the arm wrestlers going against their opponent. And so they show Bull Hurley, and he's just like holding it steady. And then he goes, "You ain't shit," and just slams it down. And I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, this just literally just bug-eyed, "You ain't shit," and just slams the arm down. And then there's another scene in it, and this is a real, I did my research on this. Apparently this really happened. There's like this German dude arm wrestling someone else, and his elbow gets snapped. Like a Steven Seagal elbow snap, but for real. Okay.
Damn.
And the reaction to it is so crazy and kind of interesting because, like, makes you wonder, like, how much, if an actor portrays this, like, how realistic it really is. The guy's elbow snaps, and he just kind of stands there. It took a good 3 seconds, Ian, maybe 5 seconds. And then he finally, like, looks at the elbow and goes, "Ah!" and starts freaking out because I don't know that it even registered. Like, once
The
he
adrenaline
saw,
probably drowned out
yeah,
that pain.
once he saw what he had done to himself, he screamed out. And I have, my training partner was telling me that when he was doing special forces selection, the last, like, mile of, like, a 40-mile ruck that they had to do for selection, he took a spill and his kneecap spun completely around and was on the opposite side of his leg. And he actually said he had a similar reaction. They were like, "Yo, what happened to your knee?" And he looked at it and he said the next thing he knew, he woke up. Like, he passed out from
Wow.
just, like, registering of, like, oh my God, you know, what just happened to me? So, so there's that. And then the film switches to this, and it's maybe the best part of the whole movie, where then they get to, like, the final 4 guys, and now they're shooting it documentary style. Do you remember this? Where it's like each competitor
Vaguely.
is in front of a truck that's part of, like, because all arm wrestlers drive trucks, so they're giving away a truck for the prize, which is kind of
Yeah.
hilarious.
Flannel.
Okay. And they're all, like, cutting a promo about, like, what they're gonna do, you know what I mean? There's, like, this skinny but muscular black guy who, for most of the movie, he's wearing a shirt that just says Alka-Seltzer, which I think is hilarious, and it's cut off at the midrib, and he's like,
Sponsor.
my whole body's an engine. This is a piston, and this is the fire plug. Boom! He just, and I don't even think it was scripted. Like, I think he just cut this promo, and then they get to Bull Hurley, and he's like, "I drive trucks, I snap arms. That's what I do best." And then he's like,
Pretty clear.
"There is no second place. Second sucks." And it's just hilarious. Stallone is, like, barely, Stallone is barely acting. He's like, "I tell you the truth, I don't really care so much about being the best in the world. I just need this truck. You know, I need the truck. That's what I need." And then he does the whole spiel. He's like, when I turn my hat around, it's like I'm flipping a switch, and I feel kind of like a truck out there, you know. And you're just like, it's just such an insane movie. Terry Funk, the professional wrestling legend, is one of the bodyguards, which I was like never really noticed before. Just a really crazy thing, and there's no question that the 80s were the most self-confident decade for filmmaking. Like, no one thought twice. There was just "Oh yeah, sure, let's do it." Like, yeah, we're in, let's go.
This is going to age really well.
Yeah. Like, no one thought about it. And, like, once people became self-aware, it kind of killed that vibe, because people started to think about, like, how am I going to be perceived, in 10 years?
Yeah.
And maybe the arm wrestling truck driver thing wasn't the best option, but hey, it's hilarious.
Yes.
Always worth a watch. Always worth a
Some of those
watch.
movies don't age well, and they are hard to watch. Like I watched it when I was a kid, and I loved it, and I watched it over and over again, and you see it as an adult, and it's like, it's still got like clout, and it's still kind of legendary because it's one of the most
Yeah.
notable movies from back then. But it's just like, geez, something like, for example, I just saw a clip, Bloodsport, and I want to play it. And I
Okay.
want your reaction,
Put it on.
but I will agree with you on one of your recent comments that Bloodsport is one of the greatest martial arts movies in history, but not for the martial arts. It
Oh,
may be a
yeah.
controversial, like, it's not because of the
Oh,
martial arts, but Bloodsport, what they do incredibly is they make, like, not just characters, but like caricatures out of their villains, out of all
yeah.
the hype and the different types of very unique types of villains and bosses that he has to go through. And that brings like a cartoon video game style, like, interest
For
into it.
sure.
So I'm
For
going to play
sure.
this clip, and I have two major questions for you that I want you to weigh in on, because it's important to me. And Bloodsport is, again, all-time classic. All right, ready? You see it?
That was for me. Oh man, dude. This is so I don't know if you know this, because why would you? Because you're an actual adult, unlike me, who is an adult masquerading as a child. Did you know that the character Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat is directly based on Van Damme from this movie, and they actually asked Van Damme to do the motion capture uh for Mortal Kombat, but he never did it?
He was based on like Frank Dukes, like the person,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Van Damme
Yeah, think
himself.
about the way that the character's dressed in that first game. The black shorts with the red sash, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
one of his moves was the split and the crotch punch.
yeah.
Okay. And he was like a movie star who was a martial artist. Like, he's directly based on Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I think like I said, they wanted him to do the motion capture, but I guess he decided not to do it. I have no idea why.
All right.
Um, well, it's funny. First of all, dude, I was writing some notes here about Bloodsport, so I don't forget. We got to focus on the important things in life.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
so first of all, I don't know if you know this. I only found out recently because a friend of mine got really into it. Sumo wrestlers are serious athletes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, it
Yes,
is
I'm
a
aware.
remarkably violent sport. There was a dude who he's Canadian, but he was like a very very good Greco-Roman and I believe freestyle wrestler who later went on to wrestle in the WWE. His name was John Tenta, but he wrestled in the WWF as Earthquake. Okay,
Okay.
huge guy, and he went to Japan and he wrestled sumo and basically said it was the hardest thing he ever did.
Yes.
It was incredibly brutal. These guys are fast. They are strong. They are explosive. Okay. They
Yes.
hit
Conditioned.
hard. They're conditioned. They hit hard. And you get a lot of people that say about sumo wrestlers, well, if they were so good, they'd play in the NFL. Why? You know how much money these guys make?
They're kings
They
in
live like,
Japan.
yeah, they live
They
like
get
kings. Yes.
teams of servants washing them every day. Like,
Yeah.
they literally live like kings,
Yeah.
like
It's,
medieval
yeah,
kings.
it's unfathomable because in America, we're still a very young culture. Japan is not. Japan is an ancient culture. It's what we would
Sure.
probably call a civilizational state. We don't have anything in this country that tracks far back as sumo does in terms of a form of competition or martial arts
Sure.
that is central to our identity, right? And so we can't possibly relate to or fathom how ingrained this is. But I tell you, when you watch sumo wrestling and you see like the speed and explosion and the little things about it that they don't change. So, like, as an example, they're obviously on a platform. Platform is elevated and it's directly in front of the audience. The audience is like, dude, maybe a foot. Maybe.
Oh, they're
Okay.
close. Yeah.
How many times you watch that and the guy gets a 350-pound man gets thrown out of the ring and almost like lands on an old Japanese man in the front row? And the reason why I bring this up, I mean, obviously it's funny, but the only reason they haven't changed the size of that platform is tradition.
Yes.
There's no logical reason to not have more space around the circle.
In some of the big
one
matches,
bit.
they have a stage or a
Yeah,
platform
yeah.
where they're like then they're farther from the
Yeah.
audience. But yeah,
But that's just probably based surely on just the logistics, like how is this set up in the arena and so on. But like it is so heavily entrenched in tradition. And I remember seeing this video some time ago of like a sumo wrestler going through like some NFL combine tests and destroying them. Like,
smoking
you
them.
know, you know, like the
You know
level
who?
of power they generate in that. Because also keep in mind, we both know this, and I want to hear your take on this. It's like football, but worse because it's like if two linemen had more space to run into each other. Instead of
No
being,
pads,
6
no
inches or a foot,
helmets.
it's with no helmets, no nothing. The momentum. If one of those guys ran into you, like you're at best you're going down. At worst, you could be killed. I mean, let's just
Yeah,
be completely honest here.
they're massive.
Yeah.
They're massive.
No.
The you know who Martins Licis is?
No, I don't.
He's an American strongman, really, really good. Probably never reached his full potential because of injuries. He was like hit by a car, but he
Oof.
has this really cool show on YouTube called Strength Unknown, where he goes all around the world and he looks up sometimes obscure, but just maybe different types of
Is
strength
he a black
sports.
guy?
So, no,
No, okay.
no,
There's a black dude that does something similar. I'm just thinking. Yeah, keep
okay,
going. Yeah.
yeah, he's got like a Ukrainian name, I guess, but he's born and raised American.
Okay.
But yeah, he does a sumo wrestling episode, and he goes and he trains with them. He's training with lower level guys, and they do like 45 minutes of stomps, like lateral stomps, 45 minutes, and he's like
Wow.
cramping up, and he's like struggling with this, and he's one of the recent modern great strongman Martins. He's a very, very capable guy. And then he does a couple of the sparring with them, and he immediately wrenches his neck and gets like stuffed in his face by a straight shot.
Yeah,
And it's a whole different respect for, you think these guys are just big fat guys and they just get on stage and run into each other. The training, the prep, the conditioning is outrageous. Like they actually are extremely conditioned. Like the warm up itself was like 45 to an hour. They train for like 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
They do tons of like barefoot on that type of sand that they compete on. I forget what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, the culture around it is just it's so entrenched in Japanese culture itself. It'll never go anywhere unless the Japanese civilization collapses. But so I just wanted to make a couple of points on Bloodsport.
Hold on, real quick. I want to touch on sumo. I want to.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
a couple things.
All right.
I do think for next week, I'm going to dig up a couple physiques of the week of some of the greater sumos out there, because there are some guys that are obviously just essentially morbidly obese, but obviously they still move very well, but they don't have physiques.
They have to be.
There are a couple guys, some Yokozunas, that have like semi-visible abs and
Really?
dude, like barely visible, maybe like a strongman style physique. They are so fucking strong, dude. And we're talking about guys like I don't remember the exact like protocol for how someone becomes a Yokozuna, how many matches they have to win. It's a very rare thing to be a Yokozuna. It's like a huge title. It's like it's unfathomable. Like it's like winning the Super Bowl, but like it doesn't always happen. There's always a Super Bowl winner. Just because they're sumo doesn't mean there necessarily is a Yokozuna, right? And you see the way some of these guys move. And to Ian's point, there might be a couple douchebags that listen to what Ian just said and be like, 3 hours a day, that's nothing. I want you to train 3 hours a day, weighing whatever you weigh. Now imagine if you weigh 400 pounds. You understand how challenging that is. And by the way, if you're not at least 3 bills or like 275, but really short or compact, good luck. You are fucked. Good luck. Okay. If one of those guys got a hold of Frank Dukes, bro, if you took a sumo guy, okay, and you taught him some basic striking, you would think that guy would have that background. He could still lose by just gassing out. It could happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Once he gets a hold of Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's going to literally break his spine in half. What are you talking about?
It almost happened.
Yeah,
it almost happened.
Over. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. I have something else I want to say about Bloodsport, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, so that clip I played earlier, a couple of points. if nut shots were legal the entire time, why wouldn't
No,
every competitor just go for the nut shot immediately? Like
dude.
that's if they're allowed, it's like the most devastating shot there is. Probably one of the most accessible areas is right there. So for him to finish, I forgot he finished the match like that, where he split and did the
Yeah,
uppercut to his groin. It just blows me away that wasn't like some kind of DQ, but
dude.
it's Bloodsport. So
You
that's
just you just really nuked me here because not even Chong Li went to the nut shot.
never.
And he's like, yeah, he killed the guy, kind of a big deal. Okay. Yeah, he Steven Seagal the guy's leg. Okay, sure. Which by the way,
Yeah.
the guy whose leg that he exploded is the same actor who played Tong Po in Kickboxer, believe it or not.
Yes.
Once you
Yes.
see it, you can't unsee it. Okay. But like, yeah, that's a fucking dirty move. I mean, he was
Yeah.
the only dude to go to the dick shot in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Ray
No
Jackson
honor.
didn't do it. He looks
No
like a
honor.
Jackson. Are you a Jackson?
He
You
looks
look
like
like
a
a Jackson.
Jackson.
Uh, he didn't do it, right? Chong
Yeah.
Li again, like he's like the dirty fighter, and he didn't even go, wow, talk about
Yeah.
like yeah, that's a real ethical issue there. Now isn't
Yeah.
it? Like that's fascinating.
And like Frank Dukes was supposed to have like some of the fastest kicks in actual history, in real martial arts history.
Yeah,
Like they clocked the speed of his kicks. And Van Damme takes his kicks in the complete opposite direction and makes them four-phase telegraphed kicks where they're like, I mean, if you were in you'd believe it if you were in slow motion. They're so slow and telegraphed. I can't imagine how they can sell that to an audience back then. Like now it's kind of comical, it's cheesy. Uh so slow and telegraphed. And then his hair is always perfect.
of course,
It just, like,
of
there's so
course.
many things like the old school movies like kept preserved, like the look. There was no like Rocky Ford disheveled look. He was always just
Well, dude,
looking like a star.
do you know the truth about Frank Dukes?
The truth. I mean, I know some of his, some of the exploit. I don't know all the,
So
the
he's a
backstory.
total liar. This is all completely made up and fabricated,
Really?
and it's even yeah. Oh yeah, dude. So
I didn't know that part.
So Frank Dukes, like everything he's ever said is a total lie. I believe that. I believe they even.
Yeah,
I,
just like it ruins Bloodsport in a
no,
way.
no, it's about to get even better.
Okay.
I believe that they even like found a receipt for like one of the trophies that he claimed that he won, like in the Kumite, like
From
underground,
like
and
Trophy Rama and
yes,
and
literally.
like
I'm not joking. Like trophies are us, like $55 Kumite, like completely made up. But what makes it so funny? Well, there's a million things that's funny, right? That are funny. Like Van Damme kind of redid Bloodsport with the movie The Quest. And if
okay.
I'm not mistaken, he like sued Van Damme because he was like, you stole my life story. And Van Damme's like, what do you mean it never happened? It's not your
It was a
life story. Like
story. It was
none of
fiction.
this is real. Okay.
Yeah.
And like he took him to court, and there's literally like you could literally listen or read testimony of what this nut job said. There's a book about mixed martial arts a friend of mine had called No Holds Barred, and it was on the early days of MMA and just how insane it was. And there was some sort of lawsuit around that time that Frank Dukes was involved in, and he had to testify in court. And there was this insane quote where they like asked him to like discuss details of training, and maybe they were trying to figure out like, because back then, before MMA, people thought that like one finger death punches could be real. Like we didn't
Yeah.
know what like actual like no holds barred fighting looked like. So like that's
Yeah.
the reason why we got away with this shit in Bloodsport. But like they asked him to just like talk about training methods, and he was like, if I were to just dispel my secret training as a ninja, I would be killed. You would be killed. Everyone in this room would be killed. Like he said that in a United States courtroom. Like this is crazy. Okay, like he's completely full of shit. Huge. The Frank Dukes story is only possible in the era before the internet. And
Yes.
I say this with all due respect for the person I'm about to reference. It's like Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan never saw the internet coming. The difference is Hulk Hogan is an actual legend who actually did great things. Okay,
Yes.
and just embellished upon it, which was totally unnecessary because he had a great life. The real Hulk Hogan story is enough for 10 lifetimes. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to
Seriously.
make up that you wrestled 400 days in a year because you were flying back and forth from Japan and were stuck on the same day. He literally said that. Frank Dukes just is totally made up, and you could not possibly make that shit up now. It would be completely impossible. You'd be discovered immediately. Some guy that's like a BJJ black belt would go to your gym with a cell phone camera and beat you to death, and then put it on
Yeah.
the internet,
Oh
and it would
yeah.
go viral. It would be
Absolutely.
in 2 seconds flat. Okay, but on the topic of Bloodsport, the only guy in that movie who is, at least from my recollection, was 1,000% legit. Okay, and if they actually held that tournament with those guys, those types of fighters, unless he ran into like the sumo guy or maybe like the black grappler guy gets a hold of him and strangles him, the guy wins 99 times out of 100 is Paco. Remember
Oh
Paco?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
like a dirty looking.
No, because
He had
that
that kind of
guy
like.
was a legit professional Muay Thai fighter. He's from
That makes
Spain.
sense.
He moved to Thailand and he fought in like these insane, real deal Muay Thai fights in Thailand. Has a
Nice.
legit professional record. And if you look at every stance in that movie, his stance is striking because it is not artistic. Like everyone, a lot of these guys look like they could be dancers. The way that they're
Yes.
swinging their
Yeah.
that with the way that he strikes, you just notice how efficient it is. When he kicks, it's a real leg kick. Like if
Yeah.
you were in a fight and you had to kick somebody and waste as little energy as possible and land as accurate a strike as possible, that's what you would do. He's using the clinch in that movie. He's collar tying and he's throwing elbows to the face. Like
Yeah.
that is a dude that obviously has real Muay Thai training. They would never teach someone in a Hollywood movie, well, at least not at that time, I think, to move like that because it doesn't look extravagant.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
It's
very
too
Muay
simple.
Thai is a very, at least in my opinion, is a brutally pragmatic martial art.
It's
Okay,
brutal. It's brutal.
it's brutal, and it's also like it works, and if it works, it's going to be efficient, it's going to be violent, and you may be killed from this. I mean, this is
Yeah.
how the Muay Thai fights are. If you watch legitimate Muay Thai fights in Thailand, they are so brutal.
They
Uh,
are, and they
uh,
fight like 4 times a week, dude.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those
They
guys
don't
fight
spar.
4 times a week.
They don't
They don't give
spar
a shit.
ever.
Have you ever seen Ong Bak?
Ooh, no, don't know it or him.
It's a martial arts movie, probably 15 years old at this point. It's a showcasing of Muay Thai, but it's like in a Jet Li, Jackie Chan style
Okay,
action movie. I recommend it. It's a good. They made like sequels to it, which really sucked. But the first one is like people showing people what Muay Thai really is, and then they
okay.
have this really explosive action hero who's doing it all, and the stunts are pretty sick. The combat choreography is really sick, and it's definitely worth a watch. Ong Bak, it's a good one.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I mean, again, it's such a brutal, violent art. And like these guys in real life, they, according to what I've read anyway, and guys I know have gone to Thailand and have confirmed this, at least when my friends were there, they don't spar. I mean, because you fight at least once a week, you're not sparring. You're not doing
Yeah,
full contact sparring. And if you are, it's not full contact. It's with someone you trust and you're just working on timing. Like some Muay
got it.
Thai guys, and I could be wrong about this, but it's like a guy might retire at like 24 with like
Yeah,
350 fights.
yeah.
Like
It's like yeah,
crazy, dude.
because they start so young.
Yeah.
And it's like part of their culture too. So it's like Olympic
Yep.
gymnasts. Like you're retired by 22.
Yeah. You can't
You're
do it
like you
anymore.
can't handle anymore.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Also, what's interesting about Muay Thai, the first round is of a Muay Thai fight, I believe, is like supposed to be, or at least was historically supposed to be an easy round. Like both fighters don't go hard because they had it factored into the culture that not everyone had got their bets in on the fight yet.
Hmm.
So a lot of times I don't know if it's still that way, but I remember reading about it where it's like we're kind of just jousting, taking our time because like we're here so people can gamble on it. And if I knock you out in 4 seconds before everyone's got their bet, maybe it's changed with technology now. You know what I mean? But if you
Yeah.
view it almost as like Bloodsport when they're like throwing the money at you know what I mean, which conceivably was possible, right?
Yeah.
At least in some capacity. Like yeah, it's got its own set of rules, its own kind of moral code and combat code, which makes it very interesting. And you're
Yeah.
right, it's definitely functionally, culturally similar to sumo, which means that again, you don't understand what it means to be like a stadium champion in Thailand. Like, I believe the big stadium is called Lumpini Stadium, Lumpini. And like, it's not like, oh, I'm the champion of the world in Thailand, or at least, again, this is stuff I had read 5, 10 years ago. It's like you're the stadium champion. you defend the stadium.
Like that
Like
arena.
that's
Interesting.
like your club
Like your
boxes
territory.
at this stadium, you defend the stadium, and it's like a
Huh.
big fucking deal. Like
That's
it's a
cool.
big deal.
That's cool.
So like they have a totally different way of doing things. And I remember a friend of mine telling me that when he went to Thailand, here's a guy, American dude, you know, compared to the rest of the world, ostensibly very wealthy, right? You might not be wealthy in
Sure.
America, but you go somewhere else. The Thais back then, they couldn't understand why somebody who didn't have to do it would do it.
Hmm.
Like it's so brutal. They're like,
It
they're
is.
like,
Yeah.
I'd rather be a banker. Like that's,
So if it wasn't necessity,
yeah,
then
yeah.
why take that path?
And
Yeah.
it shows you how like men will seek out real men will seek out challenges no matter what. So like to the Thais, like why would anybody want to do this? But that's their cross to bear. That's their sword that they have to sheath. Where like a real man who grows up with comfort seeks discomfort and oftentimes seeks it in places where other people would be like, why would you ever do this? And it's very
Yes.
interesting in that respect.
There's also like a national and cultural pride. So I feel like even if you are gonna walk the life of brutality like that, there's something greater that you're actually showcasing and aspiring to. But do you know who Ramon Deckers
I was
is,
just gonna say that. I was just gonna say, dude,
bro?
Ramon Deckers.
Like he's
Is
like
there
the
a
Mike
better
Tyson of Muay Thai,
is there a
essentially. Like
better highlight reel than Ramon Deckers, Ian?
no,
I don't
no,
think there is, dude.
it's
I don't think
it's
there
I've
is.
watched it 100 times.
Yeah.
That has highlight reel. It's incredible. It's incredible.
So
And he's an American guy, I believe, or is he Dutch?
he's
I
Dutch.
forget.
He's
He's Dutch,
really
right?
interesting, man. No, I don't know how he fought in Holland, but what I do know is part of the reason why he developed that style was he kind of realized that he was never going to win a decision in Thailand.
Got it.
So it was like, I have to kill you. Like that's it. Like if it goes to the judges, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? From my understanding, the difference between like Dutch kickboxing and Thai kickboxing. First of all, the Dutch are much bigger people.
They are.
Like the Dutch,
He
I
was
believe
not though, right? He was small.
he was smaller, but I'm going somewhere with this. So because of that, you're dealing with bigger people. They were better with their hands than the Thais. The Dutch had better, from what I understand, were better with their hands. And I believe in Holland, there's no elbows.
Oh,
Okay. And I think that's about it. I'm sure there's other strategical differences and training
sure.
differences and everything else and whatnot. But it's fascinating that Holland, this little country on the other side of the world, gets a hold of basically the same sport and develops this incredibly dominant style. And to this day continues to export great champions, even though like it's such a tiny country. But to our audience, dude, you need to look up Ramon Deckers. The stuff that this guy did, I don't even think it's actually. I think it's unfair, Ian, to compare him to Mike Tyson because he was more exciting than Mike Tyson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's
Arguably.
imagine if Mike Tyson could also throw deadly knees and kicks and use his elbows, and it's just like he had every weapon, and he was just out to kill. Such an intense dude, and ironically, he died of a heart attack at age 49 while riding his bike.
Wow.
Probably just
I
genetics, right? I mean, I
what
don't
was
know.
what was so striking, pun intended, about his style was the pace that he pushed. He pushed.
Dude.
He never relented.
Yeah.
He just never let up. He always kept the pressure on. He was always in your face. There was never times where he was like backing off and circling and doing bullshit.
Never.
Like it was foot pedal to the metal until you were on your back,
Yeah.
and it was just such an incredible, exciting, like you said, exciting style. There's something inherently exciting about kickboxing over regular boxing because kicks and knees and elbows bring a whole nother dimension to
More
the
exhausting.
combat that for the viewer it gets much more exciting if you're into that kind of thing. Yeah,
Dude,
man.
it's pretty crazy to think about this. Top level kickboxers, at least in Holland, or you look at the K1 Grand Prix or whatever, or I don't even know if K1 exists anymore, whatever it is now, it's like 3 3-minute rounds. They're not doing
Yeah,
12 threes.
true,
Okay. Like
true.
you just can't. I mean, like it's the energy that it takes to wheel your whole body into a kick, to receive a kick. Like, could you imagine a guy getting leg kicked for 14 rounds, bro? You could be done for
No,
life. Like
no, he
you
could. Yeah,
literally
it could
could be
be
done for life. Like it could be over. You could die. Like I don't,
his.
like sever an artery. I mean, I'm not joking around here. There could be internal bleeding. Like
I
Alistair
mean,
Overeem leg kicks you, or Semi Schilt leg kicks you for 45 minutes. Bye.
dude,
See you
your
later.
femur would be soup. Your
Yeah.
femur would be
Yeah.
a fucking bone
Yeah.
broth. It
Yeah.
wouldn't even exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I had this boxing coach when I was a kid on Long Island. Pretty notable guy, very well known on Long Island as a boxing coach. And he, I guess, before MMA really exploded at that point, he was like, if you get kicked in the head, you deserve it. Like he couldn't fathom how, that being a boxing only purist, like your dangers, the perils are only right here. So if somebody can get their foot from the floor to your head without you reacting to it, his point was you deserve to get kicked in the head because you should be able to move out of that, out of the way of that very quickly and easily. I just feel like in mixed martial arts and kickboxing especially, or Muay Thai especially, there's so many different weapons to be used
Yep.
that you have to, you're in mixed martial arts, you have to be worried about getting taken down. So you might drop your hands for a certain, reaction. There's too many weapons to worry about. So boxing, you only have to worry about two
Of
weapons. You don't
course.
have to worry about
Of course.
12.
And look, how many great kickboxers or strikers in MMA? I mean, Crow Cop was famous for this. I mean, Crow Cop, when he knocked out Vanderlei Silva,
Yeah.
their second fight in Pride, I mean, he set that head kick up with body kicks. It's not like, and in fact, he had less success when he was in the UFC and kind of didn't seem like he wanted to be in there anymore. And I'm not judging him, by the way. That's one of those things. When you're
Sure.
done, you're done. No, he's
Yeah.
a legend. But like when he was just throwing head kicks, he was having a lot of trouble connecting. But a lot of times you get knocked out by the head kick because you're getting kicked in the leg or the body, and so you start to cheat this way. That's
Yeah.
and that's what if you watch the Vanderlei Silva knockout. Prior to that, I mean, he had like a footprint on his rib cage from Crow Cop kicking him, right? And when you see Crow Cop throw the head kick, you see Vanderlei go to block, and obviously he's bringing his head lower into the momentum of the left kick. Crow Cop was a lefty, he was a southpaw, and he was just out. There was like blood coming from the side of his head from that kick. I'll never forget watching that. But yeah, it's there's an art to it, dude. Like, there's a real art to any legitimate martial art, not anything that Frank Dukes teaches, but any legitimate martial art that when you see it well done, when you see it done perfectly. I've had the opportunity to train with several like world-class jiu-jitsu guys, and the crazy thing about it is you can't stop them, right? But you almost find yourself not trying your hardest because you're like hypnotized by the beauty of their style.
Sure.
You're like, you'll
Sure.
see a guy
Yeah.
that, like, you're so used to getting someone in your guard and there's a fight for position. And then there are dudes that just have such incredible technique and kinesthetic awareness. They just like step around your guard like it's like a dance.
They just
And they're just,
like
and they're
butter.
mounting
They
you.
just
You're
move
like,
through you.
you're like, what is that? You didn't even touch me. Like, I don't even understand how that's possible. And at a certain point, you're just like observing, like, oh, wow, this is like actually beautiful what this person is doing, even though I am directly suffering from it. But there's absolutely an art to it. And, I think there's something we should focus on a little bit more, certain aspects of combat sports. I definitely think a deep dive on sumo would really be worth it because I just don't think people fully understand. Let's just touch on that real quick and then we'll move on. The reason why I got into it was my friend was into it. He moved to Texas, and he was the guy who was the best man at my wedding. You were at my wedding,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So he got into it, and he every now and again he comes up into New York and he visits, and of course I always make time to hang out with him. And he put on like a sumo tournament, and I was like, all right, I would not usually want to watch this, but I'll watch it with you. And when I started to see the impact of the palm strikes, when I started to see that you start hearing the noises of these guys running into each other. And then, ironically, my friend didn't really have an appreciation for this. He's not a grappler. I started to see the hips that these guys had when they were in the clinch. Like these guys are doing like legitimate like judo throws, like an uchimata. Like they're grabbing onto like the thong that they wear and hip throwing the guy. And you're like, these guys have quick hips and they're so big. Like it's just such an incredible display of athleticism, and it's something that probably deserves more credit, but it's so unique to Japan. Like if you had like an Olympics for fucking sumo, which would never happen, it would just be Japan by decimation.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Oh, yeah.
if you think about it, there's not that many big Japanese people relative to Nordic people or Samoans or whatnot, and anyone who's big in Japan is probably going into sumo. And if they're not, it's probably judo, perhaps. Although the Japanese are starting to become really good at wrestling.
Are
Really
they?
good at wrestling. Yeah, really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
I think Samoans would excel. You see that new sport where there's no ball anymore. It's not like it's rugby. People just run into each other.
It's
It's like
insane. It's insane.
I
Yeah.
thought the whole slap fight thing was stupid and insane. These guys are enormous and they're running into each other with their heads down, like mostly skull on skull contact. Many times that one gets knocked out, one of the two gets knocked out. Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, is our tolerance for brutality is
Oh,
just like
dude.
now we're getting almost like desensitized to it? I don't
It's like
want
Rome,
to
dude.
linger too much on the topic, but
No, but it's like ancient Rome in the sense of like, I mean, look, we said rock bottom is a trap door. Like, one of my favorite religious figures to listen to is a guy named Father Chad Ripperger. He's a Catholic priest, exorcist, philosophy. I think he has a PhD in philosophy. I'm actually going to one of his functions in Illinois, like literally like next week. I'm very, very excited about it. And he says the same thing about depravity. He's like, there's no limit to depravity. When you get away from, and his respect is obviously speaking about Catholic morality, but let's just, I'm not trying to turn anything that we do here into a sermon on Christianity. So let's just say you live in Japan and the Japanese kind of ancestor worship, animist religion is going to provide its own sense of morality. Once you get away from that, there's no limit to where things will go. And so, like, our tolerance for brutality has changed. And also, dude, like MMA, as it's become more athletic, it's become more lethal, but in many respects less brutal.
it has. It
You
has.
know what I mean?
More humane.
It's like there's an art to it. There's a quick punch with a professional referee who breaks up the fight right away. It is become more of a sport where I think originally those first couple UFCs it attracted more. There's that famous clip of the dude and he's in the audience. It has to be UFC 1 and he's on his head or his chest. It says just bleed and he's like like that guy is probably a bigger fan of slap fighting and what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Spiritually than
Yeah.
he is about mixed martial arts.
Sure.
Anyone who signed up to watch UFC 1 did not think they were signing up to watch a 170-pound Brazilian man strangle 5 people that night. Okay, there's no way. Okay, like they thought that they were that certainly somebody would die.
Yeah.
Okay, like
Yeah.
that's what they thought. And I'll tell you this: the audience needs to look this up. There's two elements of this. I think first, in the first UFC there was a sumo wrestler. Okay, and he did compete against a very accomplished kickboxer named Gerard Gordeau. Okay, and it was the first match of the night. And Ken Shamrock tells this amazing story where Ken obviously was a polished shoot fighter. He had competed in Japan. He was one of the best guys in Pancrase at the time. And he said there's a lot of guys backstage that are like kind of retarded, like they just signed up because they thought it was insane, but they weren't really martial artists.
Yeah.
And the sumo guy charges Gerard Gordeau, and Gerard Gordeau full on kicks him in the face, Ian. Okay. His tooth flies out into the first row.
Oh
Guy
yeah.
goes unconscious. Apparently, Gerard Gordeau almost died from a staph infection because a piece of his tooth was lodged so deeply in his foot that it infected him, and he like could have died from like MRSA or something. That's how hard he
Damn.
kicked this man in the face. Okay,
Jesus.
and there's another famous UFC clip. There was another dude. I think he lost to Hoist Grace. He lost to Ken Shamrock via heel hook. His name was Pat. Oh my God, I'm forgetting his last.
Miltich?
No, not Miltich. I would definitely know Pat. I don't know if it was Pat Roberts. It was like a common last name.
Okay.
And he fights this like fat white guy who's just wearing like a sleeveless shirt and a pair of sweatpants. And I'll never forget. Dude, I'm really not making this up. It was like, you had like the tail of the tape even back then, and it was like, Pat Roberts, whatever. I'm so upset that I'm not getting his name. It's like style kickboxing, and he was like a legit kickboxer for that time. And it goes to the fat white dude from Texas, and it just says ninja.
Really?
And you're like, this is
Not like street fighting at least or
it's like
something like that, bar
ninja.
fighting?
And then you're like, oh boy. Now that you're watching this in retrospect, you know that these guys can't fight. You're like, oh, this guy's gonna get killed, right? And I think back then, like I don't know that the corner. There's bizarre rules about stoppages. Like I don't know if the referee could stop it. I think that your own corner had to throw in the towel, or you had to tap out or something. So they wind up getting in this scramble, and the kickboxer gets on top of him, dude. He elbows him in the face, like, I mean, maybe double-digit amount of times. Okay. And to his credit, he's like torquing his whole body into it. And he realizes, like, mid bloodlust, that this guy is unconscious. Okay. And he gets up, and I think Big John McCarthy might have been the referee, and looks at him. He's like these rules
Are we
aren't
done?
working. Like
Are
this
we
guy
done?
could. I'm not going to kill this guy. Like this is
Yeah.
like this is crazy. And that I think was one of the moments where they were like, we got to have some method to stop the fight in a
Yeah.
humane way. Like the
Some
dude is literally
regulations.
drooling unconscious, and I give the dude a lot of credit. I give Pat a lot of credit to be like, all right, I'm not a murderer. Like I'm a professional martial artist. Like this has gone
Yeah.
way too far. Like imagine the heat of the battle. You land 8 or 9 consecutive elbows. You think this guy's trying to kill you, and you're able to come to, especially then. Nowadays, it's more common, but guys were not as polished back then. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to step off this. This could be a murder charge I'm catching. Like, I
Seriously.
don't, but there's a lot of crazy shit like that, dude, and like, you're right. The Samoan thing, first of all, you're right. Samoans would be amazing sumo wrestlers, assuming that they were taught early and groomed for the sport and whatnot. But that's really about it. You know what I mean? Like you could get
Well,
some giant white guys, but I also wonder
yeah.
if being too tall is a handicap in sumo. Because getting under someone seems to be like the
Yeah.
way to win. So like
Like
to get
center of
to get
gravity.
someone like Thor 6'10", is that a disadvantage? Because contact is guaranteed. It's not like he's using reach, to keep the guy
Yes.
away. So who knows? I mean, it's entirely possible. But if there was one ethnic group that could probably compete at a high level with the Japanese en masse, it's definitely the Samoans. And in fact, I probably already have. I'm probably
They're such
talking out of my ass right now. Just
physical people.
incredible.
It's incredible.
Now I wanted to ask you something. You said that you were never a big baseball fan growing up. Now were you? No, right?
My brother is an encyclopedia. If we want to
Oh,
actually
okay.
talk deep baseball, you can have him on and let him just fire away. Yeah, I played when I was young, and I appreciate and respect the sport and how difficult it is. It's just for me, you know, it's hard to watch on TV, which for me is a problem with most sports. I will always go to a baseball game and watch it live.
Yeah,
I
I know
love
what you mean.
watching baseball in person live.
Yeah,
Certain sports are very, and for me, most sports, this is a personal bias. Most sports, besides maybe football and combat sports, are very hard to watch on TV.
I
I
agree.
just don't get the same energy. I don't get the same feeling. I don't have the same lock-in interests.
Hockey,
But
perfect example.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
great live
exactly. I
sport.
cannot
Yeah,
watch it on TV.
yeah.
So then I end up missing a lot of the goings on, and I don't lock into teams and scores and all that. So long-winded way of saying, yeah, I'm not the hugest baseball wealth of knowledge.
So I love baseball. Again, I don't watch it like I used to. My grandfather was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. Later on, became a Met fan when he married my grandmother. Uh, and he wasn't my biological grandfather. My biological grandfather passed away in the 70s. My grandmother remarried. And by the way, I got to show you something. I did not even know who I was. I'm really genuinely mean this until I saw a picture of my biological grandfather when he was about my age. Because I don't really look like my dad. I have similar mannerisms. Someone when my grandfather passed away and we were cleaning out like his apartment and we were just finding all these old family pictures, dude, there was a picture of my biological grandfather, like a profile shot. It looks exactly like me. The
Yeah,
only
I
difference
had
is
the
his
same one.
his 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 nose is like a little bit bigger, but like or a little bit different shaped, I should say. It was
Okay.
like striking. And then I had found out after the fact that he was like the one guy that was like an entrepreneur, really creative, loved to fuck with people, like loved training and everything. And I was like, oh, that's who I am. And I
Yeah.
never met him,
It
you know. Yes.
skips a
Yeah.
generation.
But
Yeah.
the guy that I called my grandfather, who I loved to death, he was not my biological grandfather. He loved baseball. And, so I grew up, he would watch us, him and my grandmother would watch us during the summers a lot of times at their house. So I'm watching the Mets with them going back to the 90s. And I've always felt, and I have a couple friends that have told me this from guys that actually have combat athlete backgrounds that have worked with baseball players. They talk about what tremendous freak athletes baseball players are, but they just don't simply get enough credit. And part of the thing is, baseball is in some respects a strength sport. If you look at the duration of a play, the duration of like the physical activity of each play, and then you compare that to the rest time, it is all explosion. Like
Yes.
baseball, nothing happens until something happens, and then everything is going
It's
crazy,
a
right?
power
Yeah,
sport.
it's an
Yeah.
unbelievable power
Absolutely.
sport. And I had a friend that used to do like, he was a kickboxer, and he would like work with baseball players in the off season for strength and conditioning. And he said he has never felt harder kicks than college or professional baseball players.
Really?
Like the rotational power going into like tie pads.
Damn.
He was like, if this guy, first of all, he's like an amateur. This isn't even like a pro. But he was like, if this dude like planted his foot and kicked you in a bar fight, you're gonna fucking break someone's ribs. Like they're going down. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of these guys are deceptively big. Like there's this myth in baseball where it's like you could be small and be good. And there's some truth to that. But generally speaking, most of the great players are at least 6 feet tall. Okay.
Yes.
And there's this funny anecdote. My buddy and I always joke around about this. When you go to baseballreference.com, which is like, you know, a giant encyclopedia, it's an online almanac of baseball, and they'll have the players' height and weight, but it's always like they get their height and weight when they're like rookies, and then they just never change it. So this kills me. You look at Mark McGwire on Baseball Reference, and it says 6'4", 210 pounds or something. You're like, okay. Like you see Mark McGwire
right.
in his prime, dude. Like if you told me he was 270, I would believe you. Like he looked like he had 19-inch forearms. He swung the heaviest bat possible. Okay. It looked like a toothpick. All right. He had ginormous legs, like huge, massive legs. And there's like, you know, back in the day, the reporters would be in the locker room. So the poor players are trying to get dressed, and there's like people shoving microphones in their face. And you'll see like a shot of Mark McGwire from behind, and you has like visible mid to upper trap development, like bodybuilder-esque traps, and you're like, oh yeah, that's how you hit a baseball 550 feet. Like this is crazy, dude. You know, and his brother, believe it or not, was a legit bodybuilder. Legit, like NPC.
So it's in the blood.
Probably,
blood.
precisely. Probably didn't get a pro card because it was much harder to get a pro card in the 90s than it is today. But there's a picture of like Mark McGwire standing next to his brother, like flexing his bicep, and his brother's like leaned out, ready for a show, jacked.
Wow,
Like
really?
great physique, dude. Yeah, like a classic, almost Lee Haney looking physique, maybe a little bit smaller, jacked. And unfortunately, the brother basically like, I guess they had a falling out. He basically came out and said, like, this is the drugs I gave to Mark, and, you know, this is what he took, which is, like, unfortunate. But he did say that basically they prioritized leg training because he was getting a lot of back injuries. I guess he was getting a lot of torque from his back, like just hanging out on his spine when he was swinging the bat. And ironically, I believe he said, we always bring it back to training, folks. Guire's a huge guy, probably not built to squat, probably not worth loading his spine, making millions of dollars a year, risk versus reward. So they prioritized a lot of machine work, leg presses, hack squats, things like that. And
shit works.
It's, you know, no homo. You go back and look at Mark McGwire, like his legs are enormous. Like and that's why I say when you look at his height, 6'4", 6'5", if you said that he was 275 pounds, I would believe you. Like they said he was
very lean though, maybe 250, maybe 250.
Yeah, it's just the size of his legs it's just, I know what giant legs, what that does to the scale. Okay. And
Fair
like,
enough.
I look at like, I had really big legs and I was 6'2" and I weighed 260, like 6'4". I mean, dude, he was on another level. But even like on the same website, Barry Bonds, who I love, greatest player of all time, 6 foot, 185 pounds.
Like
Gonna
12.
press D to doubt that one, bud. You're gonna press D to doubt. The only guy that I saw on Baseball Reference that I was like, hey, this could be accurate was Jose Canseco, 6'4", 240.
That makes
But
sense.
he was big when he came into training. And by the way, I have been emailing him, trying to get him on this show.
Canseco?
Yeah, because
he
hasn't gotten back to me, but like, dude, he was one of the first guys to figure out strength and conditioning for baseball. Like, he took the PEDs. He would train with the Miami University track team in the offseason to work on his sprinting and explosiveness. He was doing plyometrics, all this stuff in the fucking 80s when most of Major League Baseball was just chewing tobacco and taking amphetamines. Like, here's a dude that was training. He was the first guy to hit 40 home runs and steal 40 bases in a season. And this is back when the guys that stole bases were like, with the exception of maybe Ricky Henderson, who was pretty muscular, were tiny. This guy was built like a linebacker, and he's stealing second base. You know what I mean?
He's a
And
freak.
he's an incredible freak athlete, but he figured out how to train.
Yeah.
Like he figured
Ahead
out
of
how
his
to
time.
train. He was way ahead of his time. And even though he was not a great hitter for average, like he was a pure power hitter. So I always say, like, Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter of all time. He obviously hit more home runs than anybody, and he hit a lot of bombs. But I feel like McGwire and Canseco, I'll send you some links. We can probably go into this next week. They hit their home runs, like a greater percentage of them were insane, murderous bombs. Like they would hit, when they connected, they would hit it further than Bonds did, but Bonds just connected more often.
Got it.
Basically, like Canseco has got some shots. Like, have you ever been to Shea Stadium?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. There's a game in 1998. Mark McGwire, to the audience, maybe you don't know, was a right-handed hitter. Okay. Most of the time, if you're a right-handed power hitter, you're going to hit your hardest shots to left field. You're pulling the ball. They call it pulling the ball, and you're getting the torque of your whole body. The ball will go to left field. Okay. Meaning that hitting the ball the opposite way. So if you're a righty, hitting it to right field, most of the time you have a lot less power. Now, there are some guys, Mike Piazza, for example, had great opposite field power. Dude, I saw Mark McGwire hit a home run at Shea Stadium. He's a right-handed hitter. He hits it opposite field, right center. And Ian, you've been to Shea. You remember the giant scoreboard that was in, that was it? He hit 3/4 of the way up.
Jesus.
Dude.
I mean,
I mean, as I get older, I think that's maybe the most impressive feat of strength I've ever seen. Like to hit, like, it was like this thing would have gone 550 feet if the scoreboard wasn't there. Like, you remember how tall that scoreboard was,
yeah.
and I to my recollection, he hit halfway up, and then I checked, and I think it was 2/3 or 3/4. Again,
Holy shit.
opposite field home run.
Insane.
You're talking just, dude, insane power, insane power, and to anyone who wants to hate on Mark McGwire, when he was 6'4", 215, he hit 49 home runs as a rookie. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a guy who had it, you know.
That's the big thing about baseball is that, the layman will think that drugs do all the work. You can take all the drugs you want. It
Yep.
doesn't make you a better player.
Yeah.
It might actually hurt your performance because of all this bulk you get and this, new mass that's in your way of your swing pattern. Barry Bonds was one of the greatest players of all time before he took drugs.
By far.
So like, the drugs, yeah, gave him some more body weight, some more leverage, some more push power to get more home runs. But to connect with a fastball is like one of the hardest things to do in any sport.
By far.
In any sport,
Yep.
especially today when they're always throwing 95 and above, not like 70 years ago when it was like, meatballs, 80 miles per hour. But they're so fast today. It's why so many guys throw their arms out and burn out pretty quickly,
Oh,
getting
yeah.
Tommy John surgery
There's
every
so
few
many
years.
problems with that. I actually have
It's-
someone that we can get on the podcast to talk about that. A guy that I know that treats those injuries. He talks about how it's a cultural problem in baseball. Actually, is what it is. Like,
Really?
they have the kids throwing hard all year round, and that actually guys have been able to throw just as hard for a very, very long time. But
Yeah.
older school pitchers were taught, only throw that hard when you have to, not every single time that you throw it, which is kind of what happens now. And
Yeah.
they had an off season. So like Tom Glavine, your brother would know who he is. He played for the Mets, but he was a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. I think it was Tom Glavine, but it was one of those guys on the Atlanta Braves. I believe he was offered a scholarship to play college hockey for like Maine, like one of the big, universities. And if you think about it, Ian, the type of limb dexterity required to play goalie, which is what he was, is similar to what he would be using pitching, like very open hips, great
Sure.
thoracic rotation, right? So here's a dude that, and we discussed this before, is developing general skill in the offseason by playing another sport. And what does that do? It saves your shoulder. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to throw a ball like that, dude. Get the fuck
No.
out of here. It's
No.
so
Very
bad for you.
unnatural.
It's such an unnatural motion.
Yeah.
But like guys, like, they totally blow their bodies out now. But to your point about strength and conditioning and everything, I think with baseball, what it really did, obviously guys could hit the ball harder, sure. You have to keep in mind, everyone seems to forget that the pitchers were also on steroids. Wasn't like just the hitters had them. Okay, you've
Sure.
got pitchers throwing them, and what does that really do? Uh, of course, it increases max velocity, but it keeps guys healthier for longer into the second half of the season. You know,
Fair enough.
162 games, it's a lot of games. Plus, you don't factor in that's hard if they're all home games. Now imagine you're traveling, like you're basically like a touring rock band while playing professional athletics. It's
Exhausting.
so exhausting. So the fact that you're able to just maintain muscle mass, keep your reaction time, maybe not have nagging injuries and everything going into the latter end of the season, I think is
Great
why
point.
guys benefited so much from them. They could just swing the bat just as fast in September or relatively as they did in May, right? And that's just like, that's huge. Plus, drugs can help with central nervous system recovery, you could argue, which again is a big factor. But like the drugs kept them in one piece. I did that video about Babe Ruth, if he could play today, and I had so many idiots that were telling me that, you know, he could never play. And I had other people that knew baseball say to me, you either have that hand-eye coordination or you don't.
Yeah.
That cannot be taught. Okay.
You can train it to a certain degree and improve
Yes.
upon it, but to that level, to that dominant level, I
You,
think
you
is
have it or
just
you don't.
inherent.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
dude,
It's innate.
I have friends that played my buddy Matt. He tried to play like college baseball, and he was a good high school baseball player. He said he got to college and he hit like 190. He was like, I'm going home. Because like the level of the movement, the velocity, the way that pitchers disguise their delivery, it was just so much better. He's like, I can't fucking hit these. I can't hit a baseball anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. So I think that they're vastly underrated. You look at the movement of a shortstop, the lateral movement, the ability to cover distance. And by the way, a baseball field is way bigger than you think. Okay,
It's enormous,
it's you know
actually. It's
it's
enormous.
way bigger than you think. Like I think
Yeah.
throwing the ball from like the exact distance, I forget the exact distance from third base to first base, but if you made that throw in the NFL, it's a pretty respectable throw. And
Really.
you're supposed to do it every single day like it's nothing, like it's routine, okay?
Yeah.
You see how big center field is, and you're supposed to cover all that ground. And by the way, not just cover the ground, do it while looking at a flying object. And also, by the way, you're expected to throw that thing, turn and just chuck it on a straight line drive, maybe to home plate.
On a rope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on a I mean, dude,
Yeah.
it's next level. So I just think, you know, the baseball players are extremely underrated for how explosive they are,
I agree.
how
Great
strong and
point.
powerful they are. And that, like we said, that hand-eye coordination cannot be taught. Like you said, you can train it, but you either have it or you don't. You know,
I think
it's
your
real simple.
ceiling for ability is innate, right?
Precisely.
But you have to practice it to improve your, to reach their ceiling.
What's
But yeah,
unfortunate about baseball, though, dude, and I want to hear your opinion on this, is like it's such a skill game. So like you could be a great athlete, but you can't just go on a baseball diamond and dominate if you're a freak athlete.
no,
Like you need to
no.
understand like how to hit the ball, or like what is a pitcher going to do if the count is 0-2 versus 2-2? There's skill. How do I grip the bat when how do I change my swing if I'm you know, battling off a pitcher and I have to foul the ball off, as opposed to I'm ahead in the count 3-0 and I just want to see if I could send the ball like stupid far. Like there's all of
Sure.
these little things that if you don't learn them and build on them incrementally, you can't just like go into college baseball having never played and expect to do well. It's not a
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's such a sport is a such a specific skill set for that sport, and
Hmm.
then each position has a different skill set for the most part. There's some, overlapping. But yeah, I feel like if you don't have a lifetime committed to baseball, you have no shot at competing on a high level. Not only the sport IQ, the baseball IQ you get from reading the field and understanding how the game works, and like you said, choking up when you have to and doing these little adjustments, but without a lifetime of practice and study of the game, you don't stand a chance. Like in football, if you can run fast and you're big and you can hit hard,
You have a
you
chance.
can you can hack it. You can
Yeah.
get through a lot
Yep.
of the other bullshit. Like some of the skills aren't that necessary, but being a quarterback's a little bit more specific.
Which is more like
You know,
baseball. That's the thing. But
Yes.
it's more like baseball.
Yes.
There's more decisions that have to be made. Like you can't just overpower your way through it. Like
Yeah.
there are guys like Lawrence Taylor was kind of like this at least early in his career. Lawrence Taylor didn't play football until he was a junior in high school and
It's
still
crazy.
managed to get a Division I scholarship. The guy got to the NFL having played maybe 5 years of football total his whole life. Okay, like
Yeah.
it is possible to just be so big and so fast and so strong that you just overwhelm people, and you hope
Yeah.
that while you're all of those things that your IQ is going up so that when those things
Yes.
diminish, you could still play.
Sure.
But like quarterback, that's not the case. Quarterback, there are guys that could throw the ball from like the 10-yard line on one side to like the 10-yard line on the other side. They can't play in the NFL. They're idiots. They
Yeah.
don't know how to read the field. They don't understand how to
Yeah.
lead men. They don't get any of this. Where you get a guy like Joe Montana, that of course has a better arm than almost all humans. He's a fucking NFL quarterback. But there are dudes on YouTube now that could just chuck it. Way more impressive than
Oh
Joe,
yeah.
but he understands everything. And also,
The strategy.
to your point about like the developing certain things, you look at like football quarterbacks. I didn't really appreciate this, Ian, until I got into striking. The footwork,
Oh yeah.
okay? How to you're not throwing the ball off balance. You have the kinesthetic awareness, a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, how to pivot, how to turn. It's just like throwing a baseball to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, it's not you don't just grip it and rip it. There is
No.
mechanics, and especially in baseball, if your delivery is off, the disproportionate stress on your elbow or shoulder way up. Okay,
You know what I
way up.
find really sad too is that baseball is still massive in the U.S., still one of our number one sports, and the baseball dads, the ones who are trying to live vicariously through their sons who might have some talent, like you mentioned earlier, like youth athletes in let's say AAA and the up and coming little league sports, travel ball, middle school, high school. If you're kind of a stud and you're kind of good, they never give you a break because
Yep.
there's nobody else as good. So either like the father keeps pushing, pushing, pushing because they want more exposure, they want more scouting, they want to, try and put you in the show, or the coach is like, we have nobody else that's good, kid, so you're gonna go for the fifth straight game and just throw until your arm falls off.
Destroy
Like
your body.
people think that kids are so resilient and like especially like young athletes between 12 and 18 maybe. They just basically assume this resiliency that everybody has a breaking point. And especially when you're doing something that's so aggressive and powerful, violent, and unnatural to the human body, the overhand throw. These kids are getting multiple surgeries in high school.
It's
And I
crazy.
know guys who I played football with in high school who've had like blown ACLs and horrible injuries. And it's like, I would still do everything I did playing football in high school, but some of these injuries just they're with you for life.
Yeah.
So if you don't go to the MLB, you don't go to the NFL, the NBA, now you're just lingering with a shitty injury forever because you were pushed too
Yep.
hard or because something happened. I mean, obviously it's a kind of a in a sense a crybaby attitude, but these
No, no, but
injuries can really, really
you have to
fuck you
think
up
about
for a
these things,
long,
dude.
long time. And
And
if you were, let's say, if some rest could have avoided the injury, or some good coaching or some good mentorship could have actually helped you stay healthier long term, I think that's the responsibility of the parents and the coaches. But you get lost in the sauce. With these sport dads and these sport moms, they just get so caught up, like they're playing, like they're actually fucking playing. So
and to
it's
your point though,
kind of
Ian,
sad.
here's the thing too. I put myself in the position of the sports dad. There's also a system in place that even if it sucks, you have no other way to deal with it. So in other words, like let's say you have a kid who's really good and he wants to play college baseball, but the coach isn't going to, start him if he doesn't do all of the insane off-season throwing. Even
Yep.
if you know it's bad, the kid has to start to be able to get looked at by a scout, right?
Yeah.
So there are parents that push too hard, and then there are coaches that just don't fucking know anything. And
Yeah.
the person in question is I was discussing before, my wife's cousin's husband runs a very successful physical therapy practice in Florida. And he's made a lot of money off of basically rehabbing Tommy John surgeries because Florida's a huge baseball state. And I
Like an Eric
remember,
Cressy in
yeah,
that
yes,
way,
yeah,
like a
exactly,
specialist, a baseball
exactly, exactly.
specialist.
And
Yeah.
I remember asking him, like, we stayed at their house for a couple days a few years ago, when I was like, look, I'm a strength coach. We're somewhat in the same lane. Obviously, way more than me about rehabilitation. I was like, what is what's going on here? And he basically told me, and I'm going to get some of the numbers wrong, but I want you to contrast what I'm about to say with the Tom Glavine story. Tom Glavine plays baseball, then he plays hockey. Okay. Tom Glavine won, I think he won 300 games in Major League Baseball. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best
Wow.
left-handed pitchers of all time. Okay. He was telling me that these kids, they play fall ball. Okay. They throw hard, sometimes all the way through Christmas. Okay. And then they get a couple weeks off. And then when they have to show up, let's say in February, to start training for baseball so the coach can see them, they're expected to be able to throw at max velocity the first day, because the coach is like, well, oh, if you're throwing 90 or whatever would be, it's probably exceptional for a high school kid. 90
Sure,
certainly is.
sure.
Like, you're going to be in the starting rotation. And if you give your arm a rest, your coordination is not there, you took some time off, of course your performance is going to be down for the first couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
kid who was throwing the whole time, he might get a better look by the coach because he's throwing 40 weeks out of the year. I mean, this is
Too
crazy.
much.
Like, there's like
Too much.
it's so crazy. And it's like you said, the example of a torn ACL you mentioned is interesting, because on one hand, it's worse. When you ever think of a torn ACL or maybe a broken leg or something, or concussion, it's like you're thinking of a traumatic boom, right? But like, in a way, the baseball thing is worse in the sense that it's overuse. We had time to see
There's
this
sometimes
coming.
worse
Yeah,
injuries.
yeah. We had time to see this coming. I don't know if you know who Kerry Wood or Mark Pryor are. These were
I don't think
both
so.
two like stud pitchers. They played for the Chicago Cubs, and this was like, they were going to be the guys that were going to like lead the Chicago Cubs, who were historically a fairly bad team, uh, to prominence. Young dude, fireballers, striking dudes out, and I think that they each had a few really, really good years, and then it fell apart. And I remember reading a news story about this. They might have been the example of the first wave of guys that were taught to throw way too hard, way too often, way too soon. And it was kind of like, yeah, Mark Pryor, he's 24, but his arm is 40.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
you can only throw it. You have it until you don't, and one day you reach back for that fastball and you can't do it anymore because
Yeah, it's
you've
gone.
put it's so much mileage. It's like the same thing. Guys that train like an idiot, putting mileage on their pec tendons or their knees or something. Like,
Yep.
great, that's great. You squatted every day. You're incredible. Now you're 30. You have arthritis in both of your knees, and now you can't
Yeah.
squat for the rest of your life. Actually, like,
Yeah.
so all these big
Hope it was
legs, and
fun.
I'm strong. Now I can't do it
Yeah.
anymore. So like,
Yeah.
and those injuries, once they're done, in my opinion, they're done. Again, it's not like an ACL tear is really bad, but in a way, it's like, it doesn't mean that there's mileage on the joint. We have ways to
Yeah.
rehabilitate this thing. We can use peptides. There's other stuff. Once the joint is fucked from overuse.
Take it from somebody who had an overuse injury. You know, the contact injuries are acute and very devastating. It can be
Exactly.
traumatic. And maybe like if you have a really bad contact injury, whether it's lifting or football, maybe you're maybe more tentative, more hesitant the next time you play. Like you have almost a runway to get your confidence back. And I've seen it with a lot of strength athletes. They tear a tricep.
Oh yeah.
They're just always a little bit tentative, and you
Uh-huh.
can't have any kind of second guessing yourself when you're under max loads in like a strength contest.
Uh-huh.
But I just feel like, yeah, a bone break will heal stronger and better than it did before. Like my patellar tendonitis in both knees that I had from powerlifting and strongman is still an issue. I mean, it's definitely the best it's been in years and years because of my diligent caretaking and training style and how I work around it and work with it. But I kind of wish I just tore my quad
Yeah,
and then
I know what you mean,
it
dude.
repaired and then
Yeah,
it would be over
I
with.
know.
It would be,
I know what
maybe
you mean,
some
dude.
lingering pain, but
Yeah.
tendonitis, dude, tendonitis and especially tendons, they don't bounce back so well.
No.
Ligaments and tendons just have a really hard time coming back. They usually require surgical intervention to actually be somewhat close to normal. It's a slippery slope because once you start getting it, if you don't get a handle on it,
It's a problem.
I used to just drop 6 Advil and go squat 500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so just to mask it. And that wasn't doing anything because I didn't really understand how to train, how to warm up. I was just
And then you're fucked
strong
for
and young.
years. You
And
couldn't train your legs for years.
3 years, couldn't train my legs at all.
Yeah.
And
Imagine
it was
you're
really
professional.
mentally devastating.
Imagine if your livelihood depended upon you doing that, you would have been forced to just drive that shit into the ground until it was ball game over, and
Yeah.
you'd
I'd
never
be
be
a
the same.
a
Hopefully,
baseball
you'd be a
player was
millionaire.
hired at 27, and then just couldn't do it anymore.
Hopefully, you'd
It's
be a
crazy.
millionaire, right? That would be
Hopefully, yeah.
that's hopefully you have that trade off. But the truth is, if you don't, what happens? You're cooked. It's over. You're done. Like it's fascinating. I think next time we spoke a little bit off camera. Maybe I'm pulling the veil back a little too much. You wanted to talk about HGH for like normal people use.
Yeah.
I think that for next week, this could be a good segue into like why these things are important. I'll leave you with this because I got to get going right now. But to bring the overuse, strength training. Unfortunately, I can't pull sumo wrestling into this as well, but maybe I can think about it, and baseball stuff into one umbrella. Um, I always felt like Mark McGuire, like according to what I've heard, his brother was helping him a lot with strength and conditioning, which meant that he was getting a bodybuilder's perspective.
Mm.
And I always wondered, McGuire had injury problems. I wonder if he was taking bodybuilding doses. You know what I mean? And maybe he was a little too big, a little bit too bloated, and maybe that's part of the reason why things fell apart for him. And again, Jose Canseco had injury problems, and he was very responsible, seemingly, with his training. But he's also the first guy through the door. He was a pioneer. People didn't know how much to take back then. Like
That's
there
true.
wasn't a pipeline from the Soviet Union teaching you how to dope for baseball. Like it was America's game. That's kind of the way that it was.
That's a fair
But
point.
I remember when like the cycles for the Balco athletes got leaked. I got to see if I could find them. And there was one that was purportedly for Barry Bonds, and it was pretty intelligently put together. And this was, obviously years after PEDs had broken into baseball and all this other stuff. And that was a guy that learned from it. And you look at Barry Bonds, there's a dude that Barry Bonds from 2000 to 2005 is the greatest baseball player of all time. It's not even close. Like, if you ever wondered what it was like to watch Babe Ruth play, if you watched Barry Bonds play, you don't have to worry about that. That's how amazing this guy was at baseball. It doesn't make any sense. His statistics, you could not get numbers that good if you played a baseball game on easy. That's
Yeah.
how ridiculous his stats were. But you'll notice part of the reason why this was true is through smart training and supplementation, he was able to benefit from the wisdom of playing baseball his whole life. Keep in mind, his dad, Bobby Bonds, was an elite baseball player. His godfather is Willie Mays, and his cousin is Reggie Jackson. So this is the perfect example of
Pedigree.
nature meets nurture, both at 100%. Okay.
Meet drugs.
Yeah. Usually you have nature, but the nurture is maybe a little bit off, or one or the other. This is nature plus nurture producing the greatest specimen of all time. And now he's able to heal his injuries up faster. He gained weight, but he wasn't too big. He wasn't Mark McGuire big. Okay.
He's still pretty big.
He was pretty big, but he wasn't Mark McGuire big. Okay.
True. True.
And like he was probably, they say 6'1", 230. Big, yeah, but not 270.
True.
And that's the perfect example of like all of these factors coming together. Roger Clemens, another guy, like conspicuously at age 35, just starts throwing smoke again, okay, and plays until he's 45, just burying people, just throwing baseballs and bats at people, just out of control. And that's when all of these things come together to produce like a super athlete, ostensibly. And but if you don't have it from the jump, if you can't just throw smoke with minimal coaching, you're not going to the show, bro.
No.
If you can't hit a curveball, like just with sheer hand-eye coordination, you're not going to the major leagues. Okay.
Yep.
Like, and to our point before, imagine having all of those things, but then your body doesn't hold up. And it doesn't hold up because you made bad decisions. It's got to be torture, honestly. You'd probably rather be the guy that doesn't even make the varsity baseball team and go on with the rest of your life than be the dude who was like Mark Pryor, who was like, could have been one of the best pitchers ever and couldn't do it because his body fell apart. So I don't know. Anyway, next week we'll talk about growth hormone. Get a little scientific with you people.
Can't wait.
I'm not an expert on it, but I know enough to maybe answer Ian's questions. Honestly, this was a way better show than I anticipated. I mean, we covered a serious amount of shit here. I would say that this was vintage Iron Road. I would say this is like absolute vintage Apex Iron Road. And if you're out there, guys, please message or tweet Jose Canseco to check his email. Because I want to get him on here. I know he'll give us all the dirt.
It's just a matter of time, dude. We're just too small right now.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
We need Jose Canseco on here. But that's it. Ian, anything else for the people?
I'm done, bro.
Guys, have a great week.
episode.
We love you very much.